Hello and welcome to another pocket scrapbooking video. Today I am going to be documenting late October. I'm going to be using my MercyTiara kits for this, and here are the photo sizes that I've printed my photos. I print them at home using my Epson PictureMate PM400. And I print my photos to 4x6 if they're horizontal and nice enough to take up a full slot, 3x4 if they're vertical, and 2x3 if they're either horizontal or vertical, but smaller if I want them smaller because they're either a lower quality image, not a nicely composed image, or if it's just a smaller story that I don't need to take up a big section of my page. Any screenshots that I have, I don't think I have any this time, but I would print them at 2x4 if I had any. And then any square photos I print at 2.5 by 2.5 this month. Sometimes I will print square photos at 2x2 or even 3x3. Occasionally 4x4. You can pick whatever size you want that fits in the pocket that you're wanting to use. But I find that 2.5 by 2.5 is a really nice balance. It gives you enough room to do some embellishing or journaling around it, but it's still big enough that it takes up a nice amount of space on your page and can command a little bit of attention. As you can see, my first step here, I did print a few extra photos there. Sometimes I change my mind about the sizes, or I might have missed one. So that's what you saw me doing with my keyboard there a few minutes ago. But my first phase of pocket scrapping is to lay out my templates. These are just hand-drawn templates of a Design A page protector. And I lay my photos out just to make sure that they're all going to fit on the page and get a sense of how I want them laid out in order to have some balance. Now, that little zipper pouch that you saw me using, I took some supplies out of there. That is where I've been storing my Small But Mighty kits. This is a sheet of stickers from the Gather kit. And this is a piece of cut-aparts, a page of cut-aparts, also from the Gather kit. I've used one of these already on the page before. So the early October spread, it should be either the video right before this one or fairly recent on my channel. So you can check out that if you want to see the page that came before this one. So I cut apart a couple of those 4x6 cut aparts. I really like them. And when I chose them for this kit, I was specifically thinking about pocket page scrapping with those, although they'd make really nice elements on a 12x12 page as well. And as you can see, I have been just filling in the gaps here, trying to figure out how I'm going to place some of these things. I have extra photos here, and I'm just making a decision here that I don't think I need both photos of my front and my backyard at this time of year. Yeah, I'm just going to decide. I was going to do a flip, but I'm going to decide to not do the flip there. I'll do a flip on this one instead because it has a bigger story. The other one is just a picture of my yard, so it doesn't really need a flip. I don't have a story to tell with it. So here I'm just cutting down some of the paper from the Gather kit, and I'm cutting this one down into 3x4 because I wanted something to place that meme from Schitt's Creek. That would be one of my 2.5 by 2.5 photos. And now I'm just cutting down a piece from the Small But Mighty kit. This is a piece of 6x8 paper, so it cuts down super easily into a 3x4 there. I have a piece of ephemera there, which is a wrapper from my very favorite chocolate in the entire world. If I could have only one chocolate for the rest of my life, it would be Pocket Coffee. They're so delicious. And I have some funny photos there of the Muppets enacting scenes from The Shining, which is a little silly and funny, and I couldn't resist putting it in my project life because of that. This is another piece of cardstock from the Small But Mighty kit that I'm going to use for a flap here. Those 6x8 papers make very convenient flaps. You don't have to cut them at all, you just score them. This orange cardstock is from the cardstock add-on of the Gather kit, and it was cut to a little bit bigger than 3 because I used it already for a flip on the page before this, and so it was already cut to 8 inches, but it was a little bit wider than 3 because 3x4 cards have to be actually just a little bit less than 3x4, and so I had to cut it down a little bit. Here's another piece from the Small But Mighty kit. the pattern paper that came in that kit, and I'm just scoring it at the halfway point. It was already cut down in half, so that made it pretty easy. I cut it down in half because I thought I wanted to use that piece in a 3x4 pocket, but it turns out I'm going to put it in a 4x6, and it's going to have an uneven flap on it. You'll see that when the time comes. So now that I've figured out the structure of everything and where everything will go loosely, I might change my mind as I go, but for now it's good enough. I am going to start scrapping. So I'm starting with my title pocket here, which is just a picture of my yard, and I added this cut apart. This is also from the Small But Mighty kit. It says fall breeze and autumn leaves, and then I'm handwriting late October 2023. And this goes with what I had written on the page before, which was October 2023. So I just want to indicate this is more of the same month. Now this flap, which is a 6x8 piece of cardstock from the Gather kit, from the Gather add-on, I'm just mounting a photo on the outside of that flap, and then I'll mount another photo on the inside of this flap. And that gives me a large surface here that I can use for my journaling. I'm just showing you the mechanism there. And I would like to do some stamping in here. I'm thinking I'd like to maybe stamp some lines. So I went to my stash to grab some stamps, and I'm not sure that any of these actually are going to work here. I thought about drawing some lines with my journaling stencil, but none of that is really appealing to me. So I went into my stash and I looked at my 4x6 cards that are just in my stash, and I decided to use this one, but then I changed my mind. I'm going to actually use this card. I don't know who makes this card. Oh, it looks like it might be a Paper Person card. So Paper Person makes Project Life kits as well, and I have a bunch of hers in my stash, so might as well get it onto a page. I'm going to trim this down so that you can actually see the orange around the outside edges so that it looks like it's matted on the orange card. Well, it will be matted on the orange card. And now I'm just looking at what stamp sets I have, because this flip is, like both of the photos here, are documenting a gaming day that Sophie and I spent together. Everybody else was out working and the two of us were home alone, so we decided to bring one of our extra TVs from downstairs. We have way more TVs than we need, so we brought a little TV from downstairs and placed it on the coffee table, and we were both able to game on two different switches at the same time. It was really fun. So I have these stamp sets. This one in particular is from Paper Person, and it's called Let's Play. And I love this Game On stamp. I've used it a couple of times before. So I'm just going to stamp it in some of the negative space on the photo here. And I love how that looks. It just explains, because you can't exactly tell that we're gaming. I mean, she has a game control in her hand, and you can see the extension cord draped over the side of the couch. I want to color in this stamp. This is my favorite thing, is stamping in this beautiful outline font and then coloring it in. I sometimes use my Crayola super tip markers, which are very inexpensive, easy to access markers, but this time I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. These markers are really great for coloring in things. You don't see the overlapping lines where, like, if you go over it twice or more than once, it doesn't leave a line that makes it look messy or anything, especially if you're doing it on glossy photo paper like this. These are my favorite markers for coloring in on photos. So I chose an orange color there, and just picking up on the orange on the flap itself, which you don't see from the outside of this flap, but when you lift it up, you'll see orange. And it also kind of picks up on other colors on the spread. And I do really like how that looks. Looks great. Now I need to add something to the back side of this. I'm looking through my stamps and I'm going to settle on another Paper Person stamp set called Level Up. This is the stamp set that has the switch on it, and so this is one that I reach for quite often because Switch is the game console that we use in our house the most. We do have a PS4, but nobody seems to use it. And another stamp on that same stamp set is a seal that says ready to play, and it has two controllers in the center of it. And so I'm going to stamp that seal in orange. It's a pumpkin pie is the color from Stampin' Up. And I just stamped it in some of that empty space on the wall there. And I stamped the switch in the bottom corner of my journaling card that I grabbed from my stash. And now my journaling here says, Sophie and I were home alone all day while Scott and Liv were at work. We decided to pull out the extra TV and set up both switches in the living room and play 2 Point Campus together / separately. It was so much fun to be able to see what each other were working on. Simulation University Campus Management for the win. So we spent the whole day managing university campuses, and it was fun. It's more fun than it sounds like it would be. I'm using a Sharpie pen for this, which is different than a Sharpie marker. If you were to try to journal with a Sharpie marker on normal paper, it would just bleed and expand quite a bit. So make sure that you choose the right journaling marker when you're journaling. I'm using my handy dandy roller date stamp, and I'm stamping the date, which was October 21st, 2023. Double stamped it there on the corner, and then I'll just mat that. And easy peasy, we've got our top row done on this side. Now I pulled all 3 out of the 4 because I decided to just leave one of those photos as it was. I'm going to work on all 3 of these cards at once, all 3 of the 3x4 ones. I'm grabbing the letter stickers that came in the Small But Mighty kit. And this is very meta. I am scrapbooking about my scrapbooking kit. So I just spelled out kit there, and then I'm going to spell gather, and which I just put on I just always have a piece of scrap paper on hand for putting titles on, and then I just put a slash through the center of the title so that I can space out the word properly. And then I work from the center, so that says gather kit in those beautiful yellow letters from the Small But Mighty. Now on this one, Scott and I just went out for a walk and stopped and took a picture on the edge of the road there. This is just in our neighborhood. And I didn't really want to do any journaling, but I did want to kind of make a filler card that points to us. So I decided to grab an arrow from my stash. I grabbed this I'm Nuts About You sticker from the sticker sheet from the Gather kit, added a sticker, arrow sticker from my stash, and this one is done. And this gives some really nice open space for your eye to rest on that card. Now, directly below those 2 3x4 cards, we have a 4x6 slot that will hold this photo, which is also about the kit. I just thought that it was fun to include some of the environment, of our work environment. We spend a lot of time down in the warehouse kitting and planning for kits and setting up stuff and moving things around. We don't have a whole lot of space, so shifting things around is a big part of what we do down there. I am using a new ink from Stampin' Up. It's called Misty Moonlight, and I love it because it looks like denim. So I am stamping that with an Ellie Studio stamp set. I love those labels, and it comes with a set of dies as well, so you can cut them out. Although labels are very easy to hand cut. You don't really need a set of dies, but it is fun to run it through a die instead. So I stamped 2 labels there, but I'm only using one of them for now. And then I grabbed a stamp set from Everyday Explorers. I think it was called Back to Work. And I stamped that little image there that has a checklist that says getting things done with a little paper and pencil on it. I'm going to use the die to cut this out. I'm going to cut it out through my little mini die cut machine, which is made from Cuttlebug. It's a very old machine, but it works really, really well. And I just used some mint tape to hold that in place. And I can't remember how I had these. I had them so that they all fit on the magnet sheet, but I messed it up somehow and couldn't remember how to get it back on. I'm going to just glue this label right there, and I'm also going to staple it. And I like how that photo shows just our work desk at one of the configurations. That desk serves double or triple duty in our warehouse, and that was just a time when we were about to kit up. So that's how it looks when it's in the process of that. Here I'm just making another flippity flap. This one is based on one of those pieces of cardstock from the Small But Mighty kit, and then a cut apart from the Gather kit. And I just placed my 2.5 by 2.5 inch photo, which conveniently covered the phrase on there, which didn't make very much sense in line with the story I'm trying to tell. So that worked really well. Covers the phrase completely. And now I'm trying to find some letter stickers so that I can spell out movie club. We did not watch The Muppets, but I thought that these photos were a much more fun way to document The Shining than getting actual classic Shining photos. So I'm just spelling out movie, and I'm working from the middle. The center letter is V, and then I'm going to do the same with club, with the L and U being in the center, and then I'll put the C and the B on. And what you'll notice is that these letters are not very legible at all, because that green is a very dark green and the brown is also a fairly dark brown. So, you can see them if you really look hard. And, I think anybody who's reading my project life is probably going to take the time to read what's in it. But at the same time, from a design perspective, I like my titles to pop out. So I'm going to do something typically I would outline here, but what I've decided to do, especially because this is a horror movie that we had watched, I thought something a little bit spookier and shadowy might fit with my theme more than just a general outline. So I'm going to do a drop box instead. Not that drop boxes are super spooky, but it does sit with my theme a little bit. Maybe it's a stretch. I don't know. You tell me. Is it a stretch? I like it though, so that's all that matters. So, oops, I forgot to do that one. Now it's looking good. I'm just using my Zig writer pen in brown to do this. And when you do this, you just want to make sure that you choose a side, and either the top or the bottom. So you have to choose either the left or the right, and choose either the top or the bottom for your shadow to go on. I'm choosing for my shadow to go on the right hand side of every surface of the letter and on the bottom as well. That's usually the drop shadow that I typically do. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. Now inside, I'm just going to use the cardstock that this flip is made out of, is constructed from. So this would be a piece of cardstock from the Small But Mighty kit, from the fall Small But Mighty kit. And there's 2 more photos of recreations using Muppets characters of classic scenes from The Shining. And I grabbed another journaling card from my stash. I'm running out of these. I love these school-lined journaling cards, and I need to find a source for more of them because I love them. They're my very favorite 4x6 card to use. So I wrote down Shining and found the center of it, which is the N. And I'm going to place it right here, and I'm going to basically journal around it. So I want the word Shining in large letters here. I'm using this orange from the Small But Mighty kit. All of these letter stickers came in the Small But Mighty fall kit. There will be another Small But Mighty kit coming out in January that will, hopefully, my plan is that these Small But Mighty kits will coordinate reasonably well with all of the 12x12 scrapbooking kits. And so I have to kind of pre-plan a little bit what January and February will look like at least. So I'm adding the drop shadow to the word shining as well so that it mimics what's on the cover of this flip. And my pen is actually running out as I do this, which I sort of knew. I should have been prepared for this because I think the last couple of times I've used this pen, it hasn't worked all that well. So as you can see, it's a little patchy and splotchy there. It doesn't look really even. So I just took my brown ballpoint pen. This is a Zebra clip. What is it called? I'll check for you. It's a Zebra Sarasa clip, and these pens come in different colorways. They come in sets. You might be able to buy them individually as well, but there are two sets that are called Vintage. I think it's Vintage Volume 1 and Vintage Volume 2 or something like that. I have both of those sets, and I love them. So my journaling here, I switched back to my Sharpie, and my journaling says, we watched The Shining for this month's movie club. I don't remember it from before, although I know I read and watched it when I was young. We read up on why Stephen King didn't like the film, and we agree that Jack was already unhinged, so the film didn't show a gradual decline in his sanity. We also didn't like how weak Wendy was, but it was beautifully shot. Here are some Muppet photos I thought were funny. I mean, it's kind of funny that the journaling is about how beautifully shot the film was, and then the photos that I included were not actually from the film. But we all know those scenes. They're embedded in our minds from pop culture, right? So I can't resist some Muppet humor whenever I have a chance. So this is a Studio Calico card. I can tell because of what's on the back of it. I recognize it. There we go. Flipper over, and we've got the front. And now I'm just going to add that same drop shadow on the right and bottom edges of the photo as well, both of the photos and of the journaling piece, just so that everything has that drop shadow on it. Now, beside that, I have a photo of where we go for our movie club. We always meet either at one of our houses or at Off Track Brewery. I'm just writing along a line that's in the photo. Along the roof line. It says, the patio at Off Track is closed now, but it's cozy inside. So next we have this set of 4 3x4 cards that I'm going to scrap together. They don't go together, but I'm going to scrap them together. This one, I'm just cutting down the photo a little bit smaller so that I can mat the photo on the cardstock for the photo flip. And I'm going to do the same with the photo that goes inside. These flips give you so much more real estate on your pocket pages. I love using them. As you can tell, I use them freely every single month. And this cardstock, this orange Swiss dot cardstock, came in the Gather kit, in the cardstock add-on for the Gather kit. I will point out that if you're going to be using folded flips like this as interactive elements on your pocket pages, these can only be placed on the right-hand side of your spread because that's where the holes are for the pockets. That's where the slits are for the pockets. So any flips that take place that have to go into the left side of my spread either need to be at the top because there's an open slot there on the very top of the page, or I have to use those plastic Simple Stories photo flips. But I don't think I use any of those on this page. I do have a top flip, but I don't have to use any photo flips on this one. I am mixing and matching my letters here. It gives me a fun, whimsical look, but also I think I didn't have all of the letters in the size that I wanted. So once I figured out that I didn't have all of them, I just decided to mix it up for all of them. I thought about adding something to this, but I actually really like the typographical look of it. So I'm going to play around with looking at different options for decorating the edge of this. Washi tape from my stash, and I looked at some of the die cuts from the Gather kit, but I ultimately just decided to leave it be. It's another resting place for your eye as well. It's nice to have some open spaces. I thought about doing some stamping or making another label to put right here, but I decided to just write on the photo. My Sharpie pen does that. Most pens that are felt tip will work fine on photos. It just says Sophie's Halloween costume and then a colon, Scott. Yes, she went for Halloween as her dad. She's holding an Apple laptop there, and she's wearing his backpack and his baseball hat and his hoodie from Disney. I'm stamping another label. And this time I use that same new ink. It's called Misty Moonlight. I do really love it, but I keep forgetting the name of it. It's Misty Moonlight. And I'll run that through my die cut machine as well so that I can cut it out super fast. And this label is going to go on that photo of Central Park. I don't want to cover up too much of Central Park, but it says, "Here I come." It's not my photo of Central Park, but it's something that came up on my Instagram the week before I left. And when you flip the page, the first thing I did in November is go to New York. So that will be my early November, the first part of my November spread. So this is a little bit of foreshadowing. I mentioned in my last video about how I like continuation of stories from page to page. And that's just another example of me knowing I'd be traveling the next week in the flip of the page. And so I decided to include that for that reason. I did trim down my little wrapper there so that there was more of the background paper showing. That's a paper from the Small But Mighty kit. Now, this is all from the same piece of paper, and I could have just cut a 3x4-inch chunk out of this, but I didn't realize what my plan would be until it evolved into what it was. So now I'm just piecing back together that that little 3x4 so that it fits with the other flipped up piece of paper that is from the same piece of paper. Now I do need to put something on the back here, so I'm going to put this paper on the back. Oops, I almost put it at the wrong orientation. I'll cut that down. And this photo of the house almost fills that up, but I just wanted something that wasn't white sticking out on the edge. So that's why I put that paper there. And now you're going to open it up, and most of the story does not go with the pocket coffee. So pocket coffee is its own little thing. And what I think I might do is on the flip part, I'm going to put two different pieces of journaling. So one of them is going to be on this star. I have another one of these Ellie Studio stamp sets with a coordinating die set. And I've been using a little vanilla envelope for most of my stamping needs, but I ran out of it. So I've used it up so much that it's got to be tossed now. I grabbed a piece of vanilla cardstock from my stash, which I will just keep on using moving forward now that the envelope is gone. I stamped that journaling line stamp, and now I will run the die through my die cut machine. Is it going to fit? Oh, barely. If I just trim down the paper, it will fit through the opening and it will cut. So there you go. I didn't have to pull over my Big Shot. There we go. Clean that stamp with my Stampin' Up! Stamp chamois. I wanted this homemade journaling piece, the star-shaped one, to be a little bit more substantial than it just was on its own on the cream-colored cardstock. So I've decided to cut a piece of this paper. This is from the Gather kit. And I decided to glue the star to it and then just cut out around the outside edges. I'm just rounding the corners so they're not harsh as I go. And basically, that just mats the star on this bluey, periwinkly kind of colored paper. And I just find that it stands out a little bit more, especially where that background paper is very white. It has a white base. My journaling here says, Liv found a room to rent on Henry Street in January. No more commutes. Oh, you know that's going to be showing up in my project life because we're going to be missing her dearly when she moves out in January. I can't believe I'm old enough to have a kid who's moving out. What? When did that happen? I swear, I feel like I'm only 30 in my inside. Ugh. Now, I do want to mention that, like, why I put this random candy wrapper here. So I just put a sticker from my stash that says, love this so much. Another label I'm going to find from my stash. I'm going to use one of these craft ones from Studio Calico. And I'm just going to write, this German candy is my very favorite. We got this surprisingly not from our German student, but we've had 3 different German students, none of which brought this delicious candy with them, I must say. Our students are very generous and bring us lots of delicious goodies from wherever they're from. And we've received lots of Haribo and delicious, yummy German candy. But this candy I discovered through a international snack box. So I just wanted to make a note of it in case I ever forget the name of it and want to find it and buy some more. Before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my process videos and real-time unedited versions of my videos, as well as a monthly live stream, some behind-the-scenes videos, and a few other perks. Thanks to you also for watching all the way to the end. Check out these photos that show off the photo flips in particular. Huh? What do you think? Looking pretty good, huh? This one is so funny. I love Animal driving down the hallway in his tricycle. It's so funny. And this is that unusual flip that is a full 4x6 on the bottom and a 3x4 on the top. Here are some of the places that you can find me, and you can find our kits as well at MercyTiaraKits.com. And I'd love to hear from you. If you are still listening at this point, please leave me a comment that tells me whether or not you do pocket scrapbooking. And if so, I'd love to hear what format you use. As we round out the year, I'd love to hear so that I can start planning my pocket pages for next year. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.